Hey, it's John Roberts, and I'm on the Nebula Music Podcast.
All right, what is up, everybody? Eddie Barco here, and welcome to the Nebula Music Podcast. I don't want to bore you guys with the intro. You guys already know what this is about. We talk to some really cool people who do music, anyone, whether they're musicians or even just creatives in the music scene doing something cool. We have them on the show to explore their brain just a little bit so that we can learn something new. Today is a very special episode because we have somebody who is absolutely 100% talented in music, but also does a lot of other different things. And so most likely I'm anticipating to have some different perspectives here or not. Maybe we just talk about shit for about an hour, but either way, I'm incredibly looking forward to speaking with Mr. John Robert. That's how I'm going to pronounce your name for this interview, man. How are you doing?
Or John Robert. You could just drop the S.
Ooh, John Robert. Yes.
Yeah, John Robert is fun. Hi, John Roberts. I'm John Roberts, if you want to just say it like that too.
John Roberts. We agreed before the interview that we were kind of messing around with the name for a little bit. But John, I am beyond excited to have you on the show. You do a lot of cool things that I want to get into, hopefully at some point in this interview. But before we do so, I just want to take a brief moment just to check in with you and see how have you been holding up. I mean, this year has been weird as fuck for everybody, especially creatives. And so I'm just curious, like, how has this whole 2020, I don't know, like, how have you been dealing with it? You okay with it? Has everything been fine? I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's definitely been intense and very sad year. And, I'm feeling definitely a lot more hopeful than I was a year ago.
Yeah.
A lot of, the election and things like that made, and just where we are now in terms of like containing it and stuff and a vaccine. But it was very hard to see all those people die and just very depressing and a lot of people out of work and just tried to it was a challenging year to
It
say the
was,
least.
to say the least. It definitely
But
was.
I'm a lucky guy, so
Yeah. Have you gotten your COVID shots yet? I'm curious.
I did. Yeah, I got my vaccine.
Got it. Nice. Same here.
I'm the 60 to 80 age group, so
Wait, are you really?
No. I mean,
I was about to say you look incredible.
Yes.
I was going to say you look incredible for being in that
Oil
age
of
group.
Olay. Oil of Olay.
Jesus, man. Well, I mean, I'm glad that you've been holding up very well. I know creatively this has been a very bizarre year for everybody, but I think it's important to kind of gather where everyone's thoughts are and make sure that we're okay. But if you don't mind me backtracking way back, just so we can cover a little bit about your backstory so that everyone knows who you are. I know who you are, and I'm very excited for a lot of stuff that you've done, but I like to kind of give it to you so that you can kind of, share what you want to share about your past and your biography, and then we can kind of go from there and talk about whatever we want.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let me know a little bit about maybe like where you grew up and how you got started with like your creativity stuff. I know you do stuff in music, you do acting, you do a little bit about everything. So I kind of want to know a little bit about where you're from and how you got into creative stuff.
Yeah. So grew up in New Jersey, in Edison, New Jersey, actually. My mom split when I was probably like a year or two old. So he moved to the Upper East Side, and I was always I grew up in New Jersey, but I was in the city a lot growing up. I was pretty shy up until middle school or high school, and then I started to get involved in theater and band. The polyester uniform. I played the bass drum, the big round drum.
Oh,
and
awesome.
like the part in the parades and stuff like that. And I loved band too. It was fun kids,
So you're kind of a drummer then. You're kind of a drummer a little bit.
I was, a percussionist, I can, definitely keep the beat. And then mostly after college or acting school, I kind of got into sampling. A friend introduced me to like a sampler and stuff, and got into just playing around with that. Didn't really do much other than like my own, bedroom kind of studio. And then did a kind of fun, goofy band called OptiGrab that
Nice.
was yeah, from the Jerk, Steve Martin. That's where the name comes from. And it was just me and my two friends, and we played really great gigs. We played Bowery Ballroom and Mercury Lounge. We had a nice little following. We played with like Go Go Bordello and Scissor Sisters and Tom Tom Club and Blondie, and it was a really fun, just a fun like way to I don't know. We the songs were a little goofy, but we I loved performing on stage and with my friends. It was great. So it was it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do musically, but it kind of took off and I went with it. And I was doing my comedy at the same time, so it kind of went hand in hand, and it got a good response. So anything that gets a good response, you kind of have to go with a little bit. So it was fun.
Yeah. What genre would you say that band was? Because I heard a lot of like retro 80s names, but I don't know if that's the genre you would consider for that band that you had.
Yeah, it was I mean, we were inspired by like freestyle music, the Beastie Boys. It was kind of clowny, retro, just beats. I loved 808 beats and things like that.
Yeah.
Just I had my MPC 2000, so it was me and Rick would play keyboards and Tracy would sing and we'd all write the songs together, and it was a great way to spend our time.
Yeah. I'm curious, back in those days, you being from the East Coast, I'm from the West Coast, born and raised in LA, which by the way, I think you're out in LA already, right? You're still here?
No, I'm back east.
You're back east. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha. You're back where well, actually, it's not cold right now, but are you still out in New Jersey or are you like more in New
back
York?
back where it all started. I'm in Brooklyn.
Ah, got you, man. You know what? I
Yeah.
love New York. New York is such a beautiful area. Like I've been there so many times. Obviously, not in the past year or so, but I find that I've had the pleasure of having many people here from New York. But there's this polar opposite, between LA and New York in terms of like creativity and what's important and where you kind of venture off in terms of music or acting or whatever. I'm curious, in your opinion, if you can just walk me through a little bit, growing up in the East Coast like you did, like New Jersey and New York, what was hot at the time that you were starting to do music? Because I know that you got into sampling, you were like into electronic music a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. You were into a lot of that cool stuff. I'm just kind of curious to see what it was like when you started doing music. Like, what was popping, and why did you choose to go the direction that you did?
Well, you know, at the time it was Electro Clash, and everyone just had drum machines, and it was kind of after 9/11 around Brooklyn, and yeah, like the Scissor Sisters were getting started, and my friend the Ones, and yeah, it was just this kind of downtown East Village vibe,
Yeah.
in Brooklyn too, and you had like Wit and Larry T, a lot of nightlife people, and it was kind of tied into the nightlife, so you could play a show at a really cool venue, get all dressed up in like dumb outfits and have fun,
Yeah.
and it was more a local thing, even though it was kind of worldwide. Electric Clash didn't really take off, or after that point, but it was at the time just fun, and I hadn't really had a good experience with working with people before that, so it was kind of just clicked, and I wanted to feel what it was like to finish songs, and people were responding to it. So it was nice.
Yeah. So you went through that whole period where you kind of work with a lot of not I don't want to say shitty people, but people who just don't follow through, and then at some point you kind of fell into a group that actually did, and that was your group, is what you're saying. And actually, one
Yeah, I
thing
mean,
that
not shitty people, just yeah, nothing like ever, got fully developed, or so we never played a live show, all these things that really take a lot of discipline, and like you have to follow through, and that when it doesn't happen, it kind of doesn't happen for a reason. So
right.
it usually works out for the best.
Yeah, and clearly for you it did. I'm curious, before I move on, Electro Clash, is that a name of a genre or was that a name of a group? I'm
Yeah,
confused.
no, electro clash is a genre from the early aughts, kind of electro synthesizer, early '80s inspired. Um, you know, there's a bunch of groups. I think there's a playlist or something. I'm sure Larry T. Um, you could Google it.
Yeah.
It happened though. I was there. I was there,
You were there. You were the one who invented
and
it. That's You should put that on the Wikipedia page. You just be like,
I did invent it.
John
No,
Roberts invented it.
well, Scissor Sisters were there, and they had like with twirl flags on the stage. I mean, it was really it was a fun. It was just kind of you know everyone kind of felt like you had a band and you'd run into people and everyone was with their band and stuff. It was great.
Yeah. What was the typical Electro Clash show like? Just because whenever I think of a show, especially like in New York or anywhere else, really, I come from like more of the pop writer, scene, some EDM stuff too. But I have my own vision of what things look like. But when I'm trying to envision what a typical Electro Clash show would look like at the time. I mean, it sounds like fun based on your brief descriptions, but I don't know. How did it look like when you were in those venues? And was everything like super crazy, super bright? I don't know.
It was pretty dark and stroby with a lot of people with cool looks and a lot of like vinyl leather jackets and the beginning of the Williamsburg kind of scene. Um, but cool, you know, and just kind of fun and not taking itself too seriously.
Yeah. I love that. One thing I'm curious about, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to venture into this area, but you did mention this a couple minutes ago and it just kind of piqued my curiosity. I just want to see if I can ask a quick question on it. You did mention how, like, post 9/11, you were doing a lot of these shows. I'm not sure how old you were at the time, but,
I was 12. No,
you were
just kidding.
12.
Nah. Pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I'm curious about, I'm not sure if you even can chime in on it, but I imagine that for a while, music and a lot of those things were slightly off because of what happened at that time. And this is such a weird ass topic to bring up, but it just piqued my curiosity. I know that in LA, when things happen, it can shift the dynamics of what's going on musically. So I'm curious if you remember at all. If like everything was a little bit off, maybe things were closed down, people didn't want to do music. I don't know.
I think music kind of felt like, especially Electro Clash, it had this dark kind of vibe to it.
Hmm.
Like Fisher Spooner, that's another good example, or the Felix and the House Cat or Peaches, um, early stuff. That's all kind of Electro Clash, and so it did have like a darker synthy vibe, um, and that it kind of fit the it fit that period well because
Yeah.
in New York it wasn't like COVID where you couldn't go out. It was like something really horrible happened, but it was more about coming together and enjoying you know being alive.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a very, very good description on where the music would go. When you were doing Electro Clash and you were doing comedy at the same time, actually, were you doing comedy at the same time when you were doing your band still?
Yeah, I was in the East Village and I did a show at Starlight Lounge and I would DJ too. And yeah,
God, man of all trades over here. Jesus, DJ,
well,
comic,
I
band
was
member.
slinging mac and cheese and waiting tables for a long time. But at that time, I worked at this place, Mama's in the East Village, and they actually had amazing mac and cheese. And and then I would go do my wait tables and go do my shows and you'd make some money doing that too, which was great. Not a lot of money, but you
Yeah,
know,
enough to make ends meet, I imagine.
enough to buy good weed.
Oh, doing weed and that mac and cheese together? Holy shit.
Oh yeah,
Recipe for
hello. How do you think
disaster.
I got through my day? Um,
How did you not get obese, man?
I kind of that was the beginning of the end, actually. It traced back to Mama's. Yeah.
Dude, if I were to be eating mac and cheese and weed all the time, I would be very, very overweight. But one thing I'm curious is because you're kind of a unique guest in a way where, you know, I have the pleasure to talk to a lot of musicians and I love it. But whenever I get somebody who's a little bit different or has their their feet in many different things, I like to explore that avenue. And I'm not a comic. I am not a very funny person. I love comedy and I appreciate it for what it does to our psyche and just for community in general. I guess I'm just curious a little bit about what interested you in comedy so much, just because in my experience, and I'm from the West Coast, so my point of view is strictly biased, like West Coast stuff, but I don't meet many people out here that grew up wanting to do music and comedy. That's not really a thing in LA specifically. Maybe I just haven't met the right people, but that's my experience. But for you, I would argue a lot
it's
of
like
people.
one or the other.
Exactly. That's very much what it is here. But I find that in other places, specifically in the East Coast, it's a lot more common to have jack of all trades like yourself who just kind of dabble in a lot of different things. Actually, you know, I'm going to rephrase. Over here, it's music and acting, but that's probably it. But for you, like you like comedy, you like acting, you like sampling, DJing, all that stuff. So I guess because I don't have a lot of comics on, I'm curious, what was it about comedy that attracted you to the art form?
I think because when I was a kid, I started to get a good response from comedy and was just into like all the SNL stuff and
Oh, yeah.
SCTV, Monty Python, and Pee Wee Herman. I was like very into comedy. It was kind of what saved me, and would perform stand-up comedy, you know, around probably like starting at 16. I'd go into the city and do open mic nights and yeah, I always got a good response and I had good timing. So, but at the same time, I was in musicals, and I'm not really a musical, you know, play type of person. I never really got into too many musicals, but I can sing, and you know, I enjoy music and synthesizers, and I love, you know, I love good dance music, house music. Just a part of coming out, you know, being gay in the city and the 90s. And kind of that's the soundtrack to it all, a lot of house music and raves and things like that. I loved the way that the sound evolved from disco through the 70s and the 80s to all the drum machines and all the different sounds in the 90s. And it was all very cool and fresh, and it still is. I mean, it's always evolving, but
Yeah.
I love, you know, I love beats and textures and rhythms and stuff. I've always been a, you know, big fan of electronic music.
Yeah. And I love that you are, because I do feel, I appreciate how electronic music has kind of blown up over the past 5-10 years. But it is a very interesting art form in itself. And one thing I'm curious about, if you don't mind me kind of picking your brain about it a little bit, and we don't have to, you can tell me to fuck off, but you did mention, you mentioned how like comedy did save you a little bit. And then you did mention about, you know, coming out as gay in New York. I've heard so many stories about people, about their experiences. And I'm not really trying to inquire about your experience specifically, but I do find that it can be a very defining moment, especially when it happens and, you know, how it happens. So I guess what I'm really curious about is you have made a lot of really cool stuff over the past couple of years, and you've done a lot of really, you've been very successful. But I'm wondering, that struggle of understanding your sexuality and being part of a society that kind of tries to tell you what you're supposed to do with it. Do you feel like that fueled you to do this creativity, like pursue creativity stuff? And maybe if there wasn't this problem that existed at the time and still does to this day, maybe you wouldn't have pursued creativity? It's a stupid question, honestly, but I don't know.
It's not a stupid question, and I'm not going to tell you to fuck off.
Thank you. I
but
appreciate it.
I will tell you to eat shit. No, just kidding.
Smoke weed, eat shit, and mac and cheese.
Yeah. No, I think that definitely more so music was more attached to my sexuality, and maybe that's why it took me so long to find the right person to work with that I felt like I could trust, or, you know, sing about the type of things. You know, I did work with some like kind of homophobic guys from Long Island in the 90s who, you know, I know now and they've all apologized and whatnot, but
Yeah.
at the time, it was really hard to sing about, you know, gay stuff and feel like you were with people that weren't gross.
Mm.
And now a lot of things have changed. Definitely working with Junior. I mean, he's been around house music and a lot of Queen since he was young, so he knows. And it is music is expressing myself through music. Definitely, is a big part of that for sure. Comedy just feels like, and music too. I mean, I remember like just always loving music. Just always a huge fan and always singing in our house and that type of thing. Um, but there's something about expressing yourself through music, and sexuality is kind of tied together for me a little bit.
Yeah. Why do you feel like electronic music is synonymous with like LGBTQ culture? And again, I'm completely uneducated when it comes to this topic, but I'm always open to learn something. And so I try my best not to be afraid to go to those places. But I do find that in LGBTQ culture, at least a couple years ago, maybe not so much now, but electronic music was very synonymous with that culture. And I could guess that maybe it's because of raves or something like that. But I'm wondering, in your opinion, why are there a lot of LGBTQ people? And when you think of that culture, you think of electronic music a lot of the times, not always, but a lot of the times.
Well, I'd say that like rave culture was almost very androgynous, and house music is more gay. Disco house music is more gay culture, probably up until the late '90s, and then you have more, now Britney Spears and Ariana Grande and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It also used to be a lot of divas and incredible singers, Martha Wash and big vocalists. But it's changed a lot too. So, and it always changes. And but house music, I think a good beat. You know, I think Queens just love a good beat. That's how it is. It's good. And dancing too, obviously. And it's a lot of black culture and gay culture mixed together, and Latino, New York City. Just you know, uh, it's it's a way to release yourself, and kind of dance floors were a big part of gay culture for that reason.
Yeah. How do you feel things are progressing now? Do you feel like things are better in terms of music and acceptance over um, just kind of not caring about people's sexual orientation?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, big time. And hopefully, like I mean, I think there's just incredible time for music. There's so many different genres. There's so many different ways to make music and videos and things. It's a great time to express yourself for sure. And I mean, also just it doesn't matter really how old you are. It's kind of what you're making, I think,
Oh, for sure.
and if it's good or not.
Yeah. Why would you say it took a while for you to find someone that you trusted with music? Because I feel like I might know the answer, but I don't know. I know that when it comes to making your own music and writing your own stuff and songwriting, it's a very personal thing. Once you start doing it, you start to see what I mean. But I am curious, why does it take such a long time for some people to, like myself? I'm on the same boat too. Like I don't work with a lot of
Mm.
people, just with certain people that I trust. But I never stopped to think about why it took so long, because in at least in LA, in the West culture of music, it is so common to that whole songwriter scene. Like I'm just gonna hire 5 people to help me write the song, and then boom, you're done in like a day, and the people are just turning out song after song after song. It's a very common thing to do out here, but I do find that there are select few like yourself who I don't know, like you kind of had to. I'm not sure if you were even looking for someone, but in order to actually work with someone, that trust has to be earned. So I'm curious for you, why did it take so long to find that, and why do you prefer that, like to work with someone who earned your trust versus just kind of just letting your music be worked on by, well, like with anyone?
Yeah, well, I think there were like um it's just life in general sometimes too.
Mm,
It's hard to meet people to work with a lot of times, and you just got to keep putting yourself out there and talking to people. And yeah, it's also a matter of like finishing something with somebody. I think that's a good way to start. If you finish one thing with someone and it comes out good, you keep going back for more. Um, yeah, I was working with Big Black Delta too. He's a great artist and he's super talented, and we still have a great relationship. Hopefully we'll write more with him, and then Junior too, Junior Sanchez. I think it also, depends on where you're at with your life. Sometimes when it's in a professional setting, I find like it works a lot better than sometimes friends, or personal relationships sometimes get muddy. So
Yeah.
I think, and it's, yeah, you could deal with things in a professional manner when it's more professional. So I think that's always a good idea, something to keep in mind, and just, uh, but in a band situation too, it's like, brotherhood. You kind of have to sacrifice a little bit for each other and listen. It's a relationship, so you got to listen to each other. Um, and also good people that you work with. Once you work with them, hopefully you continue to work with them forever and you develop a great relationship. That's
Right.
the goal, is
That
to
is the
do that
goal.
for me.
That
Yeah, of
that's the
course.
dream. That is the dream. Find a good group of people that work really well with you. You're not doing the band anymore, right? Though you're more solo now.
No, I mean, we haven't, it's been, probably 18 years since the OptiGrab days. I mean, yeah, I mean, that was a long time ago. We're all very close friends. We didn't let it destroy us. There'll be a documentary. No, there'll never be a documentary, but
You never know, man. You never know.
no, but for sure, I started writing. I did an EP a couple of years ago, 2019, with Big Black Delta. We did 3 songs, and now I'm just kind of, that I have Bob's, and I spent, probably the last 6 years working on pilots and pitching things, and that takes just a lot of time and energy and focus, and now I kind of put everything to the side and just focusing on music. So it feels really good right now, and probably keep going and start working on another album, at this year at some time, and do
Yeah.
live shows, and can't wait to rehearse and, yeah, do some live shows.
I know everyone, dude. Everyone on the show wants to play live. It's so
Yeah.
funny how we took that. I mean, I'm not saying we took it for granted, but it's one of those things you don't think about until it's gone. Like the ability to play a show and be around people and have a crowd that is cheering you on to play music, and all that was
Yeah.
taken away, man. I miss it
Or,
for sure.
or even just standing there staring at you with their cell phone.
Yeah,
I miss that.
yeah.
Um, no, I played a great show. I played one show uh, at school night in LA, which was great.
At the Bardo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing sound system, great, history, and that was really fun. That was, I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, if anyone has never been to school night and you're in LA, you definitely need to check that out. I don't know if it's still up and running yet, but it is one of those cool. I don't want to say hidden. Everyone knows school night, but it is one of those just really trendy, cool spots. And if you can land like a spot on that roster, it means that you're good. So congrats on that. I'm curious why are you finding that right now is the perfect time for you to just focus solely on music aside from some of the other projects that you have? I'm curious if it's because of not downtime, but because of how a lot of things happened over the past year. Did you find yourself just naturally gravitating towards wanting to make more music, or was it always planned for you to like just take this time or take a chunk of time to just focus solely on music?
Yeah, it's been planned for a while. I mean, I've been, building my home studio probably for the past 10 years. And I'm always that guy in Guitar Center. And, I just love, I love the equipment. And now I find that I don't really even need to use it. I mean, it's fun to make demos, but I'm now enjoying just really collaborating with great people and having them elevate everything. I mean, I always love to write at home or whatever, but it's nice to collaborate. That's my favorite thing. So, yeah, I mean, this is just what's exciting to me right now. I love making songs. I love being in the studio, and I'm excited to get back in for new stuff, and work with musicians and other singers and make something even better.
Yeah. I'm curious. Do you ever find that for those of you guys who do not know, you've done some pretty recognizable things in the past and currently as well. But I'm always curious about this because I'm not an actor. I'm not. I have acted, but I'm not. I don't consider myself an actor. I didn't go to school for it, and greatly respect people like you who understand that art form. You know, being able to emote and all that stuff. But one thing I do find that's oddly curious: the very few actors that I've talked to have expressed to me, on average, not all of them, that some of them, the ones that do music, tend to prefer doing music over acting. And that doesn't say that one is better than the other. I just kind of just pose the question, just like if you had to choose one, what would you choose? And a lot of them choose music. And I'm curious for you, do you ever find that there is like a pull towards one or the other constantly, or do you feel like you've kind of struck a good balance between all the things that you do?
Yeah, I feel like if anything should change, people shouldn't be like have to stick to one thing or be forced to like, I shouldn't have to be forced to imitate my mom for the rest of my life, even though I'm good at it. And, I love being on Bob's, it's the best job in the world. But, music is another thing. I think it's all, you should be allowed to do everything. I don't think anyone, if, I feel like people are, judging you for what you're doing, I don't know, maybe it's not good, so maybe just think about that. I mean, I try to think about that always and try to, you know, think about why I'm doing something, but I don't think you should have to choose. I mean, for me right now, I don't have to, but I think when, it depends on circumstances too.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me asking you a little bit about Bob's Burgers a little bit, that's what you're referring to when it comes to Bob's Burgers. You do an amazing job there when it comes to voice acting, and from what I understand, voice acting is a completely different beast from just regular acting and
Yeah,
acting in general. I mean, it's a gigantic art form that I massively respect, but it's very different from doing theater and doing film acting and then doing voice
sure.
acting. What got you into voice acting?
Well, I was doing a lot of characters in the East Village and started to put together YouTube videos that kind of went viral, and that led to live shows and getting a manager. And I met David Cross and
Oh,
Bob
that's cool.
Oden, Bob Odenkirk, and yeah, and then basically Lauren Bouchard, who created Bob's, found me and wrote that kind of role for me, and so it happened in a really natural way. But I had, like a pilot at MTV that I was working on with Bob Odenkirk, and it was with all my characters. It was very close to getting picked up, but it didn't. There's a couple other pilots too. So, TV is a really hard industry as well. It's hard to get a pilot
Yeah.
picked up, and LA. But I feel like voiceovers, it is very tied to music because you're in the studio. It's a very comfortable environment. I sing a lot on Bob's, so that's always really fun. And yeah, it's a comfortable environment for me. Being on camera or certainly auditioning is not my cup of tea. I don't really enjoy going around auditioning, although, I really admire the people that are good at it and can do it. It's a lot of rejection, too
Yeah.
much for me, so like, I enjoy creating something and being in the creative part of, being on the creative side of things and coming from it that way.
Yeah.
And something organic happens, it's awesome. But it
Yeah.
probably, Bob's happen, probably won't happen again in my lifetime, but you never know. But I don't think so. It's very, very unique thing that happened. So, uh, I think that you just have to put yourself out there.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like based on my conversation with you so far, you are very grateful for what you have. And I think it's probably why it's such a cool experience because it is one of those one out of a million shows and just experiences in general. And it does sound like it would be very similar to music. One thing that kind of boggles my mind a little bit is how you essentially made this career in a way. Obviously, there's a lot of uncontrolled elements there, but you did sort of make this for yourself in a way. You did say how like the whole auditioning thing wasn't for you. Did you ever actually try that? Like just kind of going around auditioning for things and maybe you were just like, enough of that, or you never once ever wanted to do it?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of really gross headshots. One of my best friends is saving them all. You can make a shirt or something horrible. But I think that, uh, yeah, I mean, I'll probably audition again, at some point. I'm just not, it's not something I can do for too long or that I'm even really good at. You
Yeah.
know, and that, the time that it takes to get into it, I think you just have to love it, and uh, when I was in high school and after like theater stuff, I enjoyed getting a script and stuff. Just at this time, I'm not really, besides Bob's, I'm not really like, I don't want to pick up a script or audition or, become a character or anything like that. I really want to focus on music and, uh, try to express, see what the live show is going to feel like and look like.
Yeah, and I'm kind of there with you too. Like I think there was one time where I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to. Just I'll tell you afterwards. But anyways, yes, you're right. I do feel like the whole auditioning thing is one of those things that I hear constantly people hate it, but there are those that really just embrace it and they just kind of dive into it and try and master it. I appreciate a lot of the music that you've been making, especially because I guess what would you consider your music now? Is it more on the house side or is it electronic in general? Just because you know how genres kind of blend nowadays. But I'm curious, in your opinion, what do you consider your music genre right now?
Well, I'd say it has elements of definitely house music, Junior, but also 80s synth and new wave inspired stuff like Depeche Mode or Old Information Society or Yaz. And I think it definitely has a retro vibe to it, but it's new and fresh sounding. And, I don't know how it would, I don't know what the genre would be really. I just think could work on the dance floor or just in your car kind of driving. It's high energy for sure, most of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, why do you think it does have a lot of the retro elements, which I absolutely love, and I love the house stuff. But I have noticed that there is this sort of I don't know how to describe it, but there is this fascination with retro vibes lately in music, in pop music specifically. Like we were talking about a little bit earlier with a lot of the pop artists like Ariana Grande and other people are eluding my mind right now. But I always been curious why specific genres come back or not come back, but they do cycle from time to time. And right now we are in this moment where 80s retro vibe, it's starting to kind of not take over, but it's starting to influence a lot of different things. Why do you think that's happening? I'm not even sure if you ever stopped to think about it, but I am curious.
I'm doing it. I'm controlling it with my mind. No, just kidding.
Yes.
It's no, I have a secret. No, it's probably it's always the songs from the 80s. A lot of the songs, those synth driven songs also have really good melodies and choruses and verses and um I think that's always going to be a song you kind of remember.
Hmm.
Um and it's hooky. I like those songs. Those are fun songs to sing at karaoke and you want people to sing along and I think big songs, big choruses and things like that are always going to be popular. They'll just come and go in different ways, but synth music is awesome and it's yeah, it's just fun. I think it's uplifting.
Exactly. That's actually something that I thought about. You ever heard of a band called The Midnight? They're like 80s retro synthwave. I think it's what you would consider the genre. Uh,
Okay.
there's this
Yeah,
video.
that's what I am. That's what I am. Just
Synthwave,
kidding.
like synthwave.
Yeah, retro super. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, sure.
Print that. Oh,
I'm
this
gonna
is a podcast. Oh,
ex-
never mind.
you
Okay.
know what? Hang on. We're going to write a quick little blog post and it's live. Uh, but I saw this video of this song, synthwave ish, whatever. And they have, I don't know if this is from a movie or whatever, but it shows this guy like rollerblading in Target with this girl. And it's very clearly a video that was made in the 80s. And it has this like brand new, like 2018, whatever, synthwave song. And I just watched it and I loved it. It was kind of, popping on YouTube. And I don't know why it struck me, but I think what you said kind of struck me like, oh, I think I understand why 80s music in general is starting to, come back a little bit. It's because there's this like, not uplifting, I wouldn't call it that. There's like this carefree attitude towards it. Like the 80s
There's an
was
innocence. Yeah, there's an innocence
exactly.
to it. Yes, that's what's missing. Everything is a little too, serious and guarded. It does. We do need that, a little bit of that for sure. A lot of it. A lot of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So are you tired of everything being so serious lately at all? Does it matter to you?
Well, no, I'm not. I'm not tired. I'm worried. I mean,
Really?
I'm worried for. I mean, it's a. We're living through a lot right now. But I'm hopeful for sure. And I just think people need to have an outlet. People will always need, to dance and music and things so you don't go crazy.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that when I listen to your music, that's kind of what I get is I get this vibe
Crazy.
of not crazy. I just
Crazy.
I just get like it's party time, but like it's like let's have a good time, which is kind of what I feel like a lot of people want nowadays. Like I feel like there is this desire just because of how very heavy everything has been over the past year or so. Heavy, that's a word that was used back in the days.
Yeah.
I do.
Olden times.
I know, but I do find that there's a place for your music, and I feel like stuff like that you make and other people that are in your genre, whatever genre, we're gonna call it synthwave, just because why not?
Sure.
People are just starting to be attracted to it because I think it just provides this escape of where everything's going now. And I don't mean that music never provides that music now isn't providing an escape, but I do feel like there are themes that kind of roll around, and I do feel like music in the past couple of years has been very aggressive, at least you can say, no matter the genre. And lately, more and more music has come out that just kind of promotes this whole idea of like just letting go, let's just have fun. It's about time that we have a little bit of fun, and I think there's so much space for that because I feel like we do
Maybe
need it.
less ego and that kind of thing. Yeah, for sure. Because too much ego is not fun to
Yeah.
watch. It's not
Or at least
really
not as
a
much
lot of
fun as it
room.
used to be. Not as much fun as it
Well,
used to be.
depends on how you do it, I guess. But it's not, it, it's I don't know. Yeah, there is more of just a universal vibe and innocence kind of thing, where it feels like it's just not taking itself so seriously.
Yeah. So we can't expect more ego from you then in your music.
Oh, me for sure. Yeah. No, not really. I don't know. Probably not. A lot of a lack of confidence. No, you can. I don't know. It's music. I guess you try to for sure want to leave your ego out of it, in terms of writing but when you're performing and doing, people love a diva, and I'm not that guy. But I definitely like to perform, and I can sell a song for sure.
What about on stage? Are you a diva on stage?
Oh, a lot of boas and no, I'm not, but maybe. I'm thinking maybe a lot of hats.
Oh,
But I do have a beautiful mic stand. My friend Michael Schmidt's designing, and he does everything. He designs for Cher, and he just did Simone on RuPaul's Drag Race. Did her golden arm, and he did Ariana Grande. All the big ones. And this is going to be this gorgeous mic stand. I'm very excited to perform with.
is it all bedazzled, or like how does it look like?
It's not bedazzled. It's actually made out of like car parts kind of looking.
What?
It's butch. Yes, it's butch realness. So yeah,
Do you have a picture
maybe
that I can look? I mean, I don't know if I'm
it's
allowed to.
it's not finished yet, but someday I will. I'll definitely take a lot of pictures of it and with it and perform with it a lot.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad that you're getting a kick-ass mic stand. John, you're really
Yeah,
cool,
he's
man.
amazing. You
You're really
are.
chill.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's one thing I like to see. I like to see people that kind of appreciate a lot of things and they're just having fun and they're enjoying life. And it sounds like, with your story, and I could be completely wrong, but I'm just, for all I know, you
You
could be
are.
an egomaniac.
Oh Jesus.
And you just hide it really, really well. But you're
Psycho.
super down to earth.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
try to, yeah.
Well, John, before I let you go, because I know we're gonna hit that hour mark very soon. I know we've been talking about your music and stuff, but just kind of let me know, when does it come out? When are you ready to start performing? I know things are still up in the air right now, but things are looking up slightly and things are starting to open up. So I'm just curious, do you have any shows planned? Do you have any like releases? I don't know.
So the full album comes out on June 4th. Tonight or May 21st, the Divide People, another single comes out. That'll be the third one besides Freaks and Lights Out with Debbie Harry. And Divide People is a great song, great video, a little more close to my heart. And the album June 4th, Stoned in Love, I think is another single, and Nobody featuring Beth Ditto, that'll be out this summer, and some remixes, a lot of remixes probably. I think some live shows for sure by the fall. I'm going to start rehearsing, so maybe something will pop up here or there. I'd say follow me on John Roberts Fun on my Instagram and Twitter, and I'll definitely keep everyone posted who's interested. And then I'll start to perform probably more regularly at some point at the end of the year
I
into
love it.
next year. Yeah,
Hell yeah. Are you gonna do like just East Coast, or are you gonna come to the West Coast?
definitely come to the West Coast. Yeah, see what I can pull off. I'm really looking for two backup singers right now, and I have a drummer. So I'm gonna start with that, start rehearsing, and then I have Nina McNeely, who's done some videos for me, did all these gorgeous visuals. So just putting together some art direction and things like that for the live show. Make something fun.
I
Have
love
fun.
it. Let's have fun. I know.
Yeah.
Your show sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, man. Make sure to send me an
Thank
invite.
you.
I would love to watch you perform. It sounds like it would be a lot of
Absolutely.
fun.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, man.